Have you ever experienced a really strange coincidence and thought, wow, what are the odds of that happening? Like, once I was 1,000 miles from home, in a place that I'd never been before, and I met some people that I'd never met before. After talking, we realized that we were from the same state and that we had an acquaintance in common. I thought, what are the odds of that? Well, history is full of strange coincidences that are much stranger than that happened to me. Let me give you some examples. Two of our founding fathers, Presidents Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, who both signed the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, later both died on July 4th, 1826, exactly 50 years later. Strange. But much stranger than that is the story of Henry Ziegler. In 1883, Henry Ziegler broke up with his girlfriend, who then committed suicide. Her brother shot Ziegler and then took his own life. But Ziegler had only been grazed, and the bullet lodged into a tree. Years later, Ziegler decided to cut down that tree, which still had the bullet in it. The tree was so big that he decided to use dynamite. The explosion sent the bullet flying into Ziegler's head, killing him. I guess you could say that bullet really had his name on it. Another example. Twin brothers Jim Lewis and Jim Springer were separated at birth, adopted by different families. Unknown to each other, both families named the boys James. Both James grew up not knowing about their brother. Yet both sought law enforcement training, both had abilities in mechanical drawing and carpentry, and each married women named Linda. Both had sons, one of whom was named James Allen, and the other was also named James Allen, except they spelled Allen with two L's in the second case and one in the first. They both divorced their wives and married women named Betty, and they both owned dogs named Toy. I guess you could say that twins really have a strange connection sometimes. How about a more current example? Or maybe more historical at the same time. In the book that was made into a recent movie called Life of Pi, it is no random event that the tiger's name is Richard Parker. But the stories that inspire the name are amazing coincidences. In December 1835, the ship Francis Spaight was wrecked in the North Atlantic. Survivors of the wreck were known to have practiced cannibalism in order to survive. In 1838, Edgar Allan Poe published a book called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym. It was about 4 survivors of a shipwreck who were in an open boat for many days before they decided to kill and eat the cabin boy, whose name was Richard Parker. In January 1846, a second ship named Francis Spaight sank and took a man named Richard Parker down with it. Some years later, in 1884, the ship Mignonette sank with only 4 survivors, who were in an open boat for many days. Eventually, the 3 senior members of the crew killed and ate the cabin boy. The name of the cabin boy was Richard Parker. And as long as we're exploring coincidences related to ships, there was a lady named Violet Jessop who survived the near sinking of the ship RMS Olympic in 1911. In 1912, she survived a much more famous sinking of the ship RMS Titanic when it struck an iceberg. And later, in 1916, she survived the sinking of His Majesty's hospital ship Britannic after it struck a mine in the Aegean Sea. Violet died in 1971 of congestive heart failure, which ironically is like drowning in one's own body fluids. I guess you could say it was her destiny to drown.